Morning everyone, it's Tuesday the 2nd of February and our handwriting for this morning is a company. So get some paper, grab a pencil and we're going to do a few practices of a company. Watch those joins as you write OCCOMPANY. And have a little practice of handwriting every morning, just because typing all the time, you do lose the handwriting skill and your writing will be messy when you carry on writing. So really have a little practice, do it a few times, maybe try and put it in a sentence if you want, and do that every morning before we start our whole class reading. Right, for whole class reading, it is chapter 7 of the London Eye Mystery. Now in chapter 6, the whole family, including Kat, Ted and Salim, all went to the London Eye in London. And have a think about the characters that we know so far. Kat, she's the older sister. Her brother is Ted. And Kat seems to be kind of a independent, responsible teenager, I would say. She's not an adult yet, but she seems to be quite confident and she's quite streetwise. Whereas Ted, he mentioned in chapter 6, this syndrome he has. So maybe Ted's a bit more delicate, he thinks a bit more, he's really thorough, he likes to have a plan, he likes to know what everyone's doing. He doesn't really take jokes very well either. He has to think about them and he takes things very literally. And then we've got Salim, we don't really know much about him. He's quite suspicious, I'd say, is certain things that happen. So in chapter 6, he has his mobile phone out and Kat and Ted are telling him to put it away. So all these things are starting to build up. And right at the end of chapter 6, it ended with them in the queue for the London Eye. They accepted a free ticket, rather than pay for one. And now Salim has got onto the London Eye on his own. Ted looked at his watch and it's 11:32. So on J2E, click the link and have a read of chapter 7 and answer the questions afterwards. Right, okay, now let's start some of our English. And we looked at this yesterday for our grammar. A bit of direct, I was going to point to which one was which then, but I'm not going to tell you. Direct and reported speech. We looked at this on Monday and I've got two different sentences here. And we're going to analyse them and pick them apart a bit and see what is direct, what's reported, but more importantly, why. Why is each a different type of speech and how can you tell? So, first of all, let's start with this top one. And remember, I've wrote these in the theme of a newspaper because that's what we're aiming for. That's where our writing's going. We're going to get to the end goal of being a good, thorough news report describing basically what happens in the London Eye Mystery. Why might a newspaper want to report this? Why might the public need to know this information? If you're not sure what I'm talking about, you're thinking, Mr. Powell, what on earth are you on about? You're talking in code. Go to chapter 1 of the London Eye. You should have read it already, but it tells you where the story's going and what happens to a certain character. So, let's look at this first sentence. An eyewitness has informed us that they saw a young boy get on the London Eye. Nice. Next sentence. We spoke to a bystander. Yes, I saw a young boy too. Have a think. Which one is direct speech and which one is reported and why? And there's a big clue in one of them, which means direct speech. Remember, if it's direct, someone is actually saying it. Right, I'll give you a few seconds there. Direct speech is this one, the bottom one. And why? Because it's got the biggest clue are 66 and 99 are inverted commas to show that someone is actually talking, that they have said it themselves and it's been quoted. A bit like how we do an evidence in a PEE answer. This is actually said. And who said, yes, I saw a young boy too? Well, it was the bystander. A bystander is just an innocent member of the public who just sees something happen. So we spoke to a bystander. Yes, I saw a young boy too. It's direct speech. And again, it's if you're interviewing someone. It says we spoke as if the newspaper or the journalist spoke to someone. However, that means this must be reported speech. And I can skim and scan and say, yeah, I agree, because there's no 66, there's no 99. So this has got to be reported speech. But the big question is why? An eyewitness has informed us that they saw a young boy get on the London Eye. Right, harder this one. But the big giveaway, if you watch yesterday's lesson, is the pronoun. So rather than say, I saw a young boy get on the London Eye, that is direct speech. This is now reported. So who are they? They is or are the eyewitness or the eyewitnesses of what they saw. And that has been changed into what they have said. If I was to change this bottom one into reported speech, I could say, a bystander told us that they saw a young boy too. Okay, that they saw, like this, they saw. We don't know the gender. Is it a boy or a girl? We don't know. You could say that he saw a young boy, that she saw a young boy. And that way, we've still changed that all-important pronoun. And that is how you successfully change the I into reported speech, by using that pronoun. Now, the bystander, like I said before, a bystander is just a member of the public, could be a boy or a girl, but we don't know. So I could say, we spoke to a bystander and they told me they saw a young boy too. So that is our difference, a little refresh between reported and direct speech. Now, we've got a different activity today for English on this. You did a bit yesterday, but there's more describing different events. So go through your English pack now and have a go at your speech. Now we're going on to a bit of show not tell. And this is in your English learning pack as well for today. Now, we've covered show not tell quite a few times, and it's all about showing the reader what's happening or how someone's feeling rather than telling them. Okay, we don't want to tell the reader because that's really boring, especially how good a lot of you writers are, and what you want the reader to think is, what do you want to show them rather than tell them? And we'll compare a few examples. So look at this top one. Then he was shocked. Wow, great writing. Then at the bottom we've got, his mouth formed an O shape, like that. Total shock, and you're flabbergasted by something. Which one is show and which one is tell? So which one is showing the reader what the character looks like or is doing, and which one is just telling them? So, top one is telling them. Then he was shocked. Now, yeah, nothing wrong with it, but it's not exactly exciting, is it? It's not exactly exciting to read. And really, when you're writing something, you want the reader to work out what you're trying to tell them. You don't want to be nice and lazy and just tell them. That is lazy writing, really, to say, oh, he was shocked. Yeah. So what? Next sentence. It's a bit boring. You want to make the reader work and use their own mind and brain to work out what you're trying to say. So I don't want to use that. That's not good enough. You want to show them, because showing them is so much more exciting. So his mouth formed an O shape. Now, first of all, upon first reading that, you might think, oh, what an O shape? Oh, right. Oh, yeah, he's shocked. So you want to let the reader work that out for themselves, because that way it keeps the writing more exciting rather than just telling them exactly what happens. Let's look at this example. He cried. Oh, dear. Or, a tear gently trickled down his face. Okay? Again, you've just told them there. He cried. Very dull, lazy writing. Instead, think of, what is crying? What does someone do if they cry? They might hunch themselves over. They might have their hands on their face, or their head in their hands. Their shoulders might be moving. If they're really upset, they might be gasping for air. Tears will fall down their face. So by using all those clues and showing the reader how someone might feel, makes it a lot more interesting. So a tear gently trickled down his face. Now, if I read that, right, a tear. Where might you see tears, right, on someone's face? Eyes. Why are tears falling down someone's face? Right. There's a few options here. It could be raining. They could be sweating from exercise, or they could be crying. Now, based on the story and the context of the writing, you can probably work out they're crying, if it makes sense in that context. So a tear gently trickled down his face. It's emotional. It's making the reader upset as well because it's so gentle the way these tears are falling, cascading down his face. So you're really using that to show them. And that way, the reader's clever as well. They can read that, join the jigsaw pieces like a big clue and say, right, you're trying to tell me he's crying. Very clever. Rather than using very basic language. So there's some examples of show not tell. In your pack now, you've got some questions asking you why show not tell is more effective. Have a go at that. Think about these examples, why they're better, why are they better, and what makes them more interesting to read, and what makes them better writers. Okay, have a go at those questions in your answer booklet. Right, it's maths time and it's day 2 of algebra. I can hear you all cheering at home because you're so excited, and so am I. Let's start. Yesterday we looked at shapes representing numbers. It could be letters, it could be pictures, it could be a smiley face. Here is a circle representing 10. That's showing the number 10. Here is now a different equation to what we looked at yesterday. There's multiple shapes, but the key thing to remember here is what you know about it. You know the circle is definitely 10. So that has got to be 10, that has got to be 10, and that has got to be 10. They have all got the same value because they're all the same shape. The only one that has a different value is Mr. Triangle over here because he's not a circle. 10, 20, and 30. These are obviously going to add up to 30. So our equation is 30 add something equals 45. And that way we can quickly work out what the missing value is. 30 add something is 45. Are you shouting at the screen because you know the answer? I hope so. So our triangle is worth 15. So that is just an example of how multiple shapes can still represent the same number as we add them up. Okay, now let's have a go at this one and have a look what is different with this equation. And what makes it harder is the fact there are no values given. We don't know what the squares are. We don't know what the triangle is. There isn't a key telling us that's down to us to work it out. And I'll give you a clue with this one. There is more than one answer to it. In maths, people always think, oh, well, you know, it's either right or wrong. There's only one answer to it. Is it right or wrong, sir? With questions like this, there can be more than one answer, which makes your equation correct. So, if I was to say, oh, it equals 7. 1, 2, and 4. 3 add 4 is 7. There you go, great. What is wrong with that? Why can't this be correct? It's because the squares are the same, so they must have the same value. They represent the same number, whatever it may be. So it can't be 1 and 2 because they're different and it needs to be the same number. So if we start at 7, say if I was to say, well, one answer could be that they represent 2. A square, let's say a square equals 2. 2 add 2 is 4. What else do I need to get to 7? 3. So that's one possible answer. 2 add 2 add 3 is 7. I could go lower. I could say, oh, it could be 1 add 1. The square value could be 1. That's also another acceptable answer. 1 add 1 is 2. Add 5 is 7. And there's one more. Obviously, we're going to keep our answers whole numbers. We're not going to go into decimals, otherwise we'll be here all day. I could go higher. Remember, I can't go higher than my answer. I could say the square value could be 3. 1 squared equals 3. 3 add 3 add 1 equals 7. So these are all acceptable answers for that equation. And this is where you've got to be really careful with algebra. Now we're getting a bit more harder with it, is when you see the same shape or the same letter, it could be, it will be the same value because it's the same picture or letter. And like we said last lesson, don't be worried, these could be letters. So instead of a square, I could call them just X. And the triangle could be B for all we care. But we're not going to worry about that because we know that algebra can be represented in any way at all. So my square could all of a sudden be called X. But I'm not going to collapse on the floor and panic because it's an X, because it's exactly the same as a square. It just looks different. So therefore, X could be 2, X could be 1, X could be 3. And B could be 3, 5, 1 to make that equation correct. So have a look at your maths booklet now. Have a go at these kind of equations. Right, okay, now let's go on to this kind of example, which is also in your home learning pack. Have a think, can you remember what operation this makes? 3t, or 3 lots of t. What operation am I using there? It's multiplication, okay? So, that's like saying 3 and 2 in brackets. That's the same as 3 times 2. And that's what this is. 3 lots of t, 3 times t, equals 27. So here's my equation now. And now it's, again, break it down. Imagine, if it helps you, change that letter so you don't get confused. Change it to a box if you want, because all that t is saying is, I'm a missing number, please work me out. What am I? I am t, work me out. Draw a box if it helps you. It can be a square if you want to draw a circle, whatever. 3 times something is 27. Now it's a very basic multiplication times table question. How quickly a scary algebra formula can become so basic and easy. 3 times something equals 27. 3 times 9 equals 27. And what that is basically showing you as well is, if I've got 27 up here, we're splitting it into 3 parts. That's what t is. It's saying 27 is our whole amount. What is each part going to represent? We're dividing 27 into 3. That's a t, that's a t, that's a t. And t equals 9 because we've divided 27 by 3. And there's our formula, okay? That's also in your home learning pack. Now have a go at some of these trickier algebra questions. And remember, if it helps you, get a bit of paper and put a square instead of the letter if it confuses you. Right, now we're going to tackle this question, which is in your home learning pack. The perimeter of the triangle is 200 centimetres. Form an equation to show this information. Straight away, I've got alarm bells ringing in my head here, because I know it's not asking me to find the value of any of those letters. Read that question again. Form an equation to show this information. And what's an equation? Basic numbers, letters, add, take away, and an equal sign. We don't need to solve it. It doesn't say find the value of y. So there's our triangle, 5y, 3y, and 2y. Vocab is what we need to know here. Perimeter. How do I find the perimeter of a shape? You should all be telling me, either in your head or talking. We add up all the sides. So there's my triangle. Again, that could be a load of squiggles. 5y could be a big sad face. It could be a circle. It doesn't matter. I know I need to add up those sides. So my equation is going to be one side, add another side, add another side. to make my equation, and then just write in what the sides are. Well, one of them is 5y, the other is 3y, and the last one is 2y. So that is my equation to add up to get the perimeter. And the question tells me what it equals. The perimeter of the triangle is 200 centimetres. And there you go. That is the answer, because you're writing out the equation to show that information. We could then go and try and work out what y is, but it's not asking you for that. It's purely saying to write an equation. So have a go now at writing some equations.